Hi guys. Give me a what for if you can hear me. Let's make sure we've got this going on. I see a bunch of starter questions. Thanks guys for coming early. I appreciate. So how are we doing? Oh, gotta take that out. All right. Anybody? Anybody? Just give a quick shout if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Hurry up, guys. Can you hear? Should I type something in? I think you can because I had the YouTube page up, but I just want to make sure. Steve says yes. Is that you, Steve Henderson, saying yes, you can hear me? Thank you. Okay. And Dimple as well. Hi, guys. Crazy week, of course. Hope you guys have had a good one since last week. All right, let's get to it. Hi, Tara Denise. Good to see you, and happy Wednesday also. I see George. I see Javon. I see Dimple. I see Steve, Justin, Cassie Marie. Did I just say that? All right, thanks, guys. All right, so let's just go to it. Waste no time. We've got Cassie Marie, our first question of the day. All right, can you discuss the process of appeal after losing at the hearing level, please? Yes, that one's an important one, of course. All right, so you get your letter, your decision in the mail, right, Cassie? And gosh forbid, but it happens a lot. It's a denial. You'll also see in that letter, if you can muster your way through it, and I really do recommend that you ultimately do read every line and try to focus on what the judge focused on that was, that he relied on for a denial. It takes a little bit of knowing what you're reading, but you might get some of it out of there. But in any event, that letter is also going to give you information on how to appeal. And of course, the next step is the appeals council. You can't go to federal district court without going through the appeals council. And the appeals council appeal is the easiest appeal of all, in my opinion. You're not required to do a brief. You can do a letter saying what you think the judge did wrong. Know that the appeals council is not there to retry your case. So they're not going to look at new information, new evidence that you didn't have presented to your judge, because they're really making a judgment on whether the judge followed all the rules before he or she rendered his or her opinion. I'm sorry, his or her decision. It's not an opinion, it's a decision. So there is steps that the ALJs have to go through, and by and large they do. But, a not insignificant number of times they fail to do something they had to do. It could be not addressing something that was clearly an impairment, a diagnosed impairment, in which case they'd have to decide whether it was severe or non-severe. And then from that point on, what else they'd have to do with it. It could be they failed to incorporate limitations they noticed but didn't put them in their RFC. It could be, a number of things. It could be that they did not consider the substantial evidence when they came to a determination on something without looking at that first. So there's a lot of different things. You can appeal a medical decision online. Super easy, guys. It can take you just a couple minutes to appeal, even if you don't want to do a brief, but you do not prefer to file again, or you already know you can't file again because maybe you have a remote DLI on your, insured status because you haven't worked in a long time. So you have to kind of know all those things to know whether if you appeal to the appeals council, and I'm sorry, you guys, I have this leaking eye again. It's part of this allergy thing, and I'm really hoarding up on allergy meds, but trying to do it in a way that doesn't make me too sleepy. I got really sleepy last night, and I had to kick out at like 6:30 at night. And then I still went to bed before 9, so it was really kind of weird. But so knowing whether you're going to go to the appeals council is a thought process you have to go through. The first thing I would try to figure out is, do I have an option of reapplying? And if you do, it's with the date after the ALJ's decision to going forward, because generally his decision is going to be binding on everything before that. So if you're going to do a new application, you want to know that you are insured, because you can't do a new application if you weren't insured for SSD, for instance, if you weren't insured for SSD at any time after his decision. If it's SSI, you have a little bit more opportunity. And of course, you just have to make sure that you're still poor enough to file for SSI as a renewal. If you can't refile again, if that period is going to be it, and you're not going to be able to, you have no more insured status, so you have to prove that he was wrong because that's when you did have insured status, then you're going to certainly not forego appealing to the appeals council if you can't refile. And again, it's super easy. You can do it online. They give you the link, I believe, in the letter. You could also do it on paper. We used to have to do it on paper until not that long ago. What a nightmare. I mean, you'd mail it. Obviously, you'd mail it like certified return receipt. Hope they got it. We would fax it. A lot of times the fax wouldn't work. This is going back, I don't know how many years now. I want to say it might have been after COVID started that they got the appeals council thing online. I'm not sure. But it was a real headache before, because we never knew if they got it. Were they processing it? Like, you had no way. You were like a blind mouse, So, but the appeals council appeal is the easiest of the bunch. With or without a brief or you explaining what you think the judge did wrong, it is my understanding that the appeals council has to review your case affirmatively and make sure that the ALJ did the proper steps that he had to take. But you can do it, you can do it either way. If you can even, they give you enough space where you could actually explain everything you think, as to what he did wrong right there. I think you can type it right in. And they also give you the opportunity there to say, I need a little more time. I want to appeal. So you wanted to get it in the notice before the 60 days ran, but you need more time. Maybe you have more evidence from the time period that's relevant. And that you saw that the judge didn't have, and you want to get it in because you think it would make a difference, or you want to get in an argument or a brief. You can ask for, they usually give you about 25 days, and you can ask for it right on there. We used to send in our appeal and say, please give me a 25-day extension so I can get this thing going, blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, Cassie, it's the easiest one of all if you're going to do it. If you are denied at appeals council, or they decline to review versus remand you, which would be the most common thing they would do if it's in your favor, versus a complete overturn and payout. That's the most rare. And of course, the most common is that they decline to review. And that's your opportunity then, where you can either, if you have an FTC attorney that's willing to take your case, you can get that started. That's another 60-day limit. So you do not want to wait to get an FTC attorney. You want to do that right away. They're hard to come by because they're going to be very picky about what case they take. They're not going to take a case, even if they know you're disabled, if there is no legally appealable thing they can hang their hat on to take it, because they're working with no pay unless they prevail, generally speaking. So it's not like you have to pay them, and they're not going to take a case just to waste their time or yours, right? You at that point can also not do that, or do it and refile at the same time. It's the first opportunity that if you have a case to refile, a new application, you could do that, which you couldn't do on appeals council, and you can also file your FTC appeal. I do know at least of 3 people who didn't have attorneys for their FTC appeal, and they did it themselves. I think it's amazing. And they all got remands of those 3. Of the 3 I know about. Of course, the ones that may have done it don't really tell you when they didn't get the remand. So those are the only 3 I could talk about. Also, interesting point, I've heard rumor that some want to get rid of the appeals council review. I'm kind of neutral on it. I think, either way is fine. I mean, we get plenty of flip overs on appeals council of the ALJ hearings that don't go our way, of which I don't think there are many, but when they do, we do see appeals council remands, but we also see at least half are not. I don't know whether, I'm kind of neutral on whether we should get rid of appeals council. I will leave that up to the bean counters to determine whether it would be more efficient and if it's not really helpful to claimants to have it. It does take a long time. I mean, your case can be sitting at appeals council for over a year because, they just have too many. And then you're not refiling and you're not filing for FTC appeal. So you're kind of in limbo for quite a long time sometimes. Sometimes it's only a month or two, but oftentimes it's far more than that. I have one right now that's probably been a year already, I'm thinking. I'd have to double check, but it's been a long time. So yeah, maybe they'll get rid of it. There are also people have been pushing to get rid of reconsideration. I don't support that one, but that's a whole discussion for another day. All right, I hope that answered your question, Cassie, about appeals counsel and what to do after you are denied on ALJ. We do have some videos on that too in more detail. Hi, George. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Javon, good morning. Javon has a question, I believe. My lawyer requested me an OTR. Oh, that's cool. I don't think he would have done that unless he thought you had a viable OTR. I'm waiting for, under the way they look at it, not under the way we all think, you're disabled. I'm waiting for my primary care doctor and psychiatrist to fill out my medical source statements. Anything else I need to do while waiting for all this to be completed? I don't even know what medical source statements you're asking of them. So I hope your lawyer drafted those up and they're not just willy-nilly, but I don't know. Everyone does everything differently. And remember, if you get a medical source statement that is not in your favor, under the rules that your case has to slither through, you got to hand it in to the judge. So it can be a double-edged sword. We do those very carefully. The only thing I would say is do what everyone else is doing that's waiting for a hearing. Since OTRs are rare, but the fact that your lawyer requested you one, I assume that was his idea. I assume he thinks that there is a basis for which it could be awarded right on the record. So that's a pretty high opinion, considering how much we know they are not usually preferring to do that. Usually it's someone who's really up high in the grids and has really debilitating problems and treats, and has objective evidence, out the yin yang. But so you should still be treating with your regular doctors, following up on therapies, anything, things that are recommended that are good for your condition, et cetera, et cetera. Don't be slacking on the treatment. You're at third base running home. Don't screw it up now. Keep it going. Yeah, I know you're at the hearing stage. Oops. Yeah, because you wouldn't be doing an OTR. You don't do an OTR before the hearing stage. Dimple, good afternoon. Steve, again, yes, and thank you for answering that question, Steve. I felt like I was talking to myself for a little bit there. Justin, good to see you again. Hello, hello. Oh, Cassie had answered also. Thank you, Cass. And Dimple and Cassie. Huang, good to see you. Hello, nice to see you again. Justin Yu's got a question or a statement. Still waiting on hearing being scheduled. Okay. Been waiting almost 3 months now. That's not that unusual right now. And why can't medical people do things right? You're always the best fighter for yourself. Can't depend on anybody. When you say medical people, do you mean like your providers, Justin? There is a lot of complaints. Well, there's complaints about lawyers too. So this is not exclusive to the medical profession. There is a lot of complaints about their poor record keeping and their failure to provide kind of relevant details about a person's condition and how it affects their life, which is the only reason they're there. And that's why sometimes the records are just sloppy and weak and don't talk about the complaints you actually made and all that. That's a big gripe out in the world, is the incompetence in record providing, of recording, really, of the medical profession. I'm sure, I expect that they're probably trying to figure out ways to improve that while not taking more time at a visit, because goodness knows they need to get, the way they get paid perhaps in our current health system in the entire globe is cram in 200 people a day per provider and maybe we'll make some money. And I'm exaggerating, I'm sure, but you know what I'm saying? Like you don't really see your provider all that much. You might be there for an hour and a half, but you might get, 5 minutes or something. Not all the time. Some providers are just different than that. But I think they all march to a drum in order to get paid. So we've got that. Hi, Trish. Good to see you. Nice to see you. Janelle Barrows, how are you? Good to see you again. Valerie, good to see you. Good morning. Okay, Janelle, here we go. Janelle Barrows. If I receive a supplemental payment due to my daughter being disabled, do you know the name or who I can contact to change direct deposit information with this? If you receive, well, hopefully you can go online and change your direct deposit. That's the preferred way. It has been for a couple of years. And now I think more than a phone call is needed. This is a recent change because so many fraudulent callers would call in and divert funds to a different bank account. That could be your daughter's. So you might have to go in person. Whoops. I'm like flipping you out, aren't I? Sorry. You're saying supplemental. I think you're saying SSI. So your daughter is getting SSI. Does she have an online account, or is it through you as a rep payee where you can, like most recipients have that and they can go right in and change their direct deposit? By the way, they also say you can go to, normally when we do direct deposit, we go to our bank. You can do that with SS direct deposit also. So you can go to your bank if you don't want to go to an SSA office, which I can understand. I think a bank might be quicker. They have far less customers than your Social Security office. And they're also for profit. So they might have more people and not make you wait. So check either one of those two sources if you can't do it online. If you can do it online, that's the easiest way. But either way, direct deposit, bank or your field office. Hope that helps, Janelle. Valerie, I know you're always worrying, Valerie. I get it. Is there anything that we need to worry about with Social Security? I know they want to make some changes. I am now concerned about it. I'm less concerned about it than ever before. We're already seeing some great changes, so it's good. I always think when you're going to fix something, you have to almost slow down and fix it. Not that we're not going super fast, but for many years now, people were saying, I'm worried about Social Security. I'm worried about Social Security. Look at the funds, blah, 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 blah. And it's not getting funded enough. And there's, this, that, and the other thing. And all that was true. And finally, SSA wants to get fixed, and people want it to be fixed. Claimants benefit. We've been crying and represent. We've been asking for it for years and years and years. Like something's got to be done. As the system started to deteriorate more and more and more, and people were saying, "Oh my God, I'm never going to get benefits when I retire because," all right. So now that there's changes, people are actually willing to make the changes. And change is hard. It's very hard. When we fix something, we usually have to take it apart sometimes to get in there to fix what's broken. And that's what's going to have to go on. And then it gets fixed, and then it's not the problem. And hopefully, I always think with technology and big bureaucratic things, there's always going to be new problems. Clever, bad actors are always going to be figuring out new ways to wiggle in and cause damage. Criminals are smart. So I think it's always going to be something that's going to have to be observed and overseen, which has been a big problem over past years. There was money coming in, but it wasn't being used to check things out. It was being used for some really weird things that didn't actually help the claimants and the beneficiaries. So while it's scary, change is scary, and it might be like, hold on, we can't have filet mignon right now, and that's not about, there's going to be no payment stoppage or anything like that. That would be something I would not expect at all. In fact, the whole goal is paying people faster. Unfortunately, we've seen that with the law that came out in 24 with the Social Security Fairness Act. Whatever we may think of that law, it was to provide more benefits for a certain small subgroup of beneficiaries. And it was supposed to take a year, and they were having it done by end of March. So They quickened things. They made things more efficient. When things are able to be done with automation, why hold the person's money back? So that's a good thing. We've seen a little bit of that in this office too, with some delayed cases suddenly resolving. So, and I don't mean in terms of determination. Medical determination is a whole different thing. That's at the state level. I'm talking about once somebody won and they need to get paid, and the attorney wants to get paid. So both of those factors, and or their dependents. So I do see things that might be a sign that that is actually already started. Obviously, the pensioners already saw their money. So that's something that happened 10 months faster, or 800% faster than what was originally designed in 2024 by whoever made the deadline then. So change is scary, Valerie, I know, but it's certainly not going to be taking away beneficiaries' benefits. If anything, it's going to be speeding up how fast it takes to pay someone once they are determined to be owed money. Tara Denise, what do you mean by a case being remanded? Remanded means it goes back to the judge for another decision, which generally also means you have a right to a new hearing. A judge could, I've never seen this, but a judge that has been remanded, his case has come back to him because they said he did something wrong at appeals council, I think is what you're asking about, but it also happens at federal district court. A remand means he gets it back to redo it. Redo his whole decision, which means the opportunity for hearing is also going to be repeated. I've never seen a judge get a remand and say, oh, now I'm giving you an OTR. So it's always going to, for practical reasons, it's always going to be another hearing. And then he makes the whole new decision. And by the way, you can submit more evidence because now you have a new hearing date. So you have a new 5-day rule. And you get all the updated evidence since your last hearing in, and, always keep fighting your case, even after if you get a denial and you're going to appeal and you're waiting on that appeal, I would still be pursuing my evidence as if because you still have an ongoing case and you're going to need that updated evidence for when you do go, because you always have to have evidence, treating records up to the present by and large. Okay. And the other thing, Tara Denise, other than remand, is a reversal, which would be like an overturn. Well, they're both kind of overturning the prior decision, but like a reversal and an award. And that's more rare. I think that's like 1% of the cases at appeals council. They actually, I had one, they actually overturned and awarded. And mine was due to an age category change. So they didn't actually overturn the judge's RFC and the fact that my guy was limited to sedentary. It was because he now turned an age where sedentary would matter. So it was helpful, but it was, it was what the judge should have done anyway. Well, isn't it always though, right? All right, Valerie. Oh, Valerie's talking to Tara. Sorry. Justin. My psych doctor sent a referral to a neuro doctor. Okay. I called them this morning and they're telling me they don't have it in their system. Okay. That's an internal thing between your doctor and the neurologist he supposedly sent a referral to. Maybe go to your doctor's office. Not go, but call them and say, hey, the neurologist you said you referred me to says I don't see it in their system. Can you make sure that it gets there? Can you give me can't they even give you a hand printed referral sheet and then you can actually go to the neuro and hand it to them? I know they normally do it internally now, phones, or computerized, but you have to follow up with them. That's not going to be something that anybody here can help you with, unfortunately. Valerie, my mom and I are both receiving Social Security. Okay, she's retirement. All right, she's retirement based on being a survivor, perhaps. And I'm SSDI. You are under retirement age and collecting Social Security disability on your own work record, right, Valerie? We'll need to do the on-site verification. What are you trying to verify? You mean, I'm not sure what you mean by on-site verification, unless you're trying to do so. I mean, if you're trying to change your direct deposit, you want your money to go to a different bank account. Yeah, you would do that online or you would go in person. One or the other. But otherwise, it should just continue seamlessly, smoothly paying you. You're in. M. Williams. Hello, Ms. Joy. Physical exam 2 weeks ago. Mental exam Friday. Okay. Those are consultative exams, I think he's talking about. Started physical therapy. Therapist got primary care to order more x-rays on hips. Already done. X-rays on back along with MRI. That's great. When you get those, you could even tell your adjudicator, M. Williams, that you just had x-rays done. And as soon as they're in, and they'll probably be in your portal really fast, assuming you have a patient portal. Allergies, guys. That way they maybe will wait for those to make their decision. Those might have some good juice in them, right? Because you had your physical exam and now they're doing the mental, and usually, I know my friend Jonathan said, sometimes it takes long, and it does sometimes, but I think the protocol was always supposed to be, and this is the way I tend to see it, they don't usually order a CE exam until after they have the bulk of the medical evidence, because they might not need to pay for a CE exam if the medical treatment records you already have spell out disabled. If they don't spell it out firmly enough, then they'll get the CE exam. So usually that's towards the end of the workup. There can be exceptions, of course, as Jonathan pointed out. But I would maybe just alert them that you're getting those, or you've had those x-rays. If you have the x-ray reports, I would shoot them up to your adjudicator right away today. If they say that they're unremarkable and there's nothing wrong, you could probably take your time. I wouldn't rush that one, because they're not going to help you. But if you're not sure if they do, or they do show something, I'd get them right up there for sure. Dimple. If I talk to someone at Jonathan's office a month or so ago, am I considered to be a client of his? I talked to someone there before I found your videos. Oh, you're a client when if you're talking about a represented client, I mean, you could be a client, I don't know if it does consultations or whatever. If it's an appointment of representation, if you signed a 1696, that's the appointment of representation. And if the other person signs it, the other representative, and then it gets sent by one of you, usually the representative will send it to the SSA if you have an existing case. If you haven't even filed yet, then it can't even go in until you file. So like for us, if we're filing for somebody, because they're not even in a case yet, we file it, and then the same day we send in the appointment papers we both signed, as well as the fee agreement. And I think we send in the SSA 827, which is a medical authorization, because they're always going to ask for it. So we get it in. Because you can't send in a 1696 appointment until they have a case before the SSA. So, all righty. So it really depends on what you did. And Jonathan's great, by the way. So if you could do very fine with his practice. Tara Denise, just talking to Valerie. Okay, Dimple. Oh, there you go. I was told that I needed to apply first, and was hoping to get info about qualifying for a listing to be able to meet requirements faster instead of multiple denials. You can't make yourself qualify for a listing. You either do or you don't. It's whatever your impairment is. So if you are, and yes, by the way, you need to apply first before they will take a 1696 and have a representative. They're not going to have a representative attached to a person who doesn't even have a claim in the system. I was told I needed to apply. So if you think you'll meet a listing, I would go to those listings. They have a page, or I can even find it. Hold on a second. I think I can. So if you go to, and I'll post this, guys, so you can see it. Listing. I'm just doing a Google search here. Here we go. All right. And then you find out which one you think you're under. You could always suggest, here, I'm going to put it here, guys. I don't know where else to put it. listings. Oops. It's pretty ugly, the listings, and they're complicated. So it should be down there someplace. When you list your impairments on your application, and again, if you're going to get a representative, I suggest you don't do this. You don't start your application. Let them do it. If you are 17 months out or about to be 17 months out, let's say you're 16 months out from the date you last worked because of your disabilities, I would get that protected filing. Maybe start your application, get the reentry number, and then save and exit. Save your reentry number, because that's going to buy you 6 months so that you can get your rep, get all the data they need, and the thing can be filed for you. But, you might want to have someone else do that. It's a personal choice. It's just one that I think is better. And the listings, they have systems where they can read your impairments when they get your application. But I also think they use a little bit of, some people might call it AI. They've been doing this for years, that pulls out certain words. It'll pull out cancer and see if that's a listing, or terminal. If you said terminal in there, they want to know, because that could be an expedited case, could be a compassionate allowance. So they have, little automation is a good thing. At least when it comes to helping, not making the decisions, right? Okay, so I hope that explained that, Dimple. Valerie, the remand made my attorney angry because it caused her more work and she never had that. Wow, so she really preferred a denial? I don't know. I think a remand is great. I don't know why it would make her angry. It means she did a good job and that the ALJ is the one that erred. Doesn't mean that you win the next round, but it means he made an error when he denied you and he has to go back and fix it. And oftentimes by then they're seeing what they missed and you have new evidence and now you can prevail. I don't know why it would make your attorney angry. I think it's a good thing. You got screwed by the judge who made a mistake at your expense, and the appeals counsel or whoever it was recognized that they made it and sent it back. So I don't know why that would be something. I consider that a positive. Yes, it's more work, but that's what we're here to do. I mean, it is, right? So it sounds like she didn't get remands. She just got denials. And then the standard denial by appeals counsel, we declined a review. Yeah, but this time she didn't. So I don't know. I think that's good. And I know you already prevailed, Valerie, right? So that means it was really good, right? Gosh, it probably made a big difference to you, And maybe she's like, I'd rather refile. Sometimes refiling is smarter. If you know the case was weak or whatever, not what you thought it was going to become, but then you lose all those back benefits too. So there is a cost. We don't do that lately. Glamour girl. So when remanded, do you go to the front of the hearing line or wait all over again? They are supposed to have priority, Glamour girl, along with some other things like 100% disabled veterans and terminally ill cases, people being evicted or foreclosed upon, if they're already in the system for that, like they've been filed against. There's a slew of priority cases, and I believe remand is one of them. In fact, I know they're one of them. It still doesn't make things super fast though, but MC. Oh, talking to Tara. Sorry, I didn't mean to bump into that conversation. Valerie. Well, good. I'm glad you're not trying to change anything, because you don't have to worry about any of this. You need to enjoy life and best you can with your disabilities. And I hope they are not highly painful ones. And don't let any of this stuff stress you out, guys. Seriously. Oops. I keep popping up the wrong things. Janelle. Let's go back to Janelle. Janelle says, I receive SSI and a payment from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts due to her being disabled. That's your child, I think you said. Okay. So she gets an SSI and a supplement maybe? I thought SSI payment only came from SSI. Well, I know. So SSI is the federal payment. Some states just have a, when they see someone's on SSI, they go, oh, we're going to give you a little more. It's a state thing. And sometimes it's paid with the SSI. So they kind of work together, but it's a state decision because some states don't do it. I think most do though. It's a little extra, particularly in states where it's very expensive. Like California might have a high SSI additional amount that they add of their own volition because California is very expensive to live in. I don't know that it's going to make enough difference to make it affordable to live in California if you're on SSI, but they do what they do. I'm trying to retrieve. Oh, is that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts payment that was sent back? I don't know. I really don't know what that means, Janelle. Why was the I think you're saying the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Is that what you're saying? They sent a bonus. I say bonus. They sent the additional and then they took it back. Did you move? Is there another exception to the state bonuses? Do they not go to kids? I really don't know the answers to that. Let's see. Oh, there's the listings, guys. Okay, I'm getting past that. If anybody needs that link, I mean, you can go through and see if something meets it. You can even take it, like not the whole listing. When you figure out one that might meet you, I don't know why you couldn't, if your doctor knows that you're filing for disability. And again, I have videos on why you might not want to tell them. It really depends on your doctor and some things like that. But you can also try to find out if he thinks it meets a listing, because he could write an opinion letter that says she meets listing number, blah, blah, blah. But you really have to give the exact page and line and quote that shows where the 3 things they ask for, or whatever it is, are found. If they say it's got to be found 3 different times a month apart, then you have to show 3 different times each, so it's a little arduous, and I don't know that your doctor's going to do it. Just saying, I think she meets a listing isn't going to, mean anything. But a doctor opinion and the treating one showing, see in my medical record here, I showed how her blood pressure was this high, or her ejection fraction was this high. Let's say it was a cardiovascular. And on this day it was also, and on this day it was also. So if it's a listing that means it can't just be a one-hit wonder day, it's got to be shown multiple times in a certain period of time, then point those out. But the SSA definitely looks for listings. They do that before they even do RFC, because that's what they do, at step 3, right? Listings before RFC, because if it's a listing, they don't have to bother with the rest of it. Okay. MC, did you have a question I missed? Okay, MC had said his SSI call today is at 3:30. Is that Eastern Standard? I was already approved for my SSDI. Is there anything I should know to say or ask during the call, or what to expect, please? Well, you mentioned SSI call. Do you mean SSI? Or did you mean the SSA office? And also, you talk about SSDI, but do you mean SSI? SSDI, if you haven't given them your banking information, they may be calling about that. Generally, there's not much else they need to know. SSI, they need to do a perk and find out if you're eligible for SSI for any or all months after you've filed an SSI application, because that's the one you have to be poor enough. So they're going to go through, are you getting free rent from somebody? Boom, they're going to knock you down. What is a living arrangement? Do you have any other income? What are your resources? Are they under that $2,000 limit for single people, or $3,000 for a married couple? Those are the things you got to look for. So that's if it's SSI and the perk. If it's not, like I had a field office person need to know banking information, and I think that was it. And so I did tell my person to give them a call back, and get them that, because I don't collect their banking information. I refuse to. Dimple, I will be 59 at the end of the month. Oh, I'm right behind you. I'll be 58, but in August. Janelle switched to a Chime banking account and Chime wouldn't accept that portion of it. You mean the Social Security, Janelle? Yeah, that's like an online bank, right? Maybe it has to be a brick and mortar, because Chime never actually gets to see your face either, right? I have plenty of online bank accounts myself, but I also have brick and mortars. But it's nice if you have a brick and mortar that has online presence, which probably they all do, because then you have both options, which is helpful. I mean, I have a brick and mortar, but I rarely ever go to it. Rarely. All right. We're getting through these questions pretty good, guys. Maybe we'll just do this for an hour. Let's see. Tiger Bite, good to see you. Oh, and thank you for your, oops, wrong one. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it very much, as I think most people here do. My award letter indicates my condition and it affects me. I know SSDI and VA are different entities, but does that info count along with my other yes. SSA does not have to agree. Well, the VA never said you met the SSDI definition of disabled. However, they said you met their definition, which means you have severe disabilities. So I'd say you generally probably have already met the second question, I think, in the sequential clause is, does he have a severe impairment? Or more, more than one. So you're already, got that under your belt. And then, of course, severe impairments aren't necessarily disabling from all 12,000 jobs in the economy. And that's why SSDI has such a more difficult burden. Sorry, I'm wiggling around here. Keep crossing my legs and uncrossing them. But the SSA, you want to tell them all about your VA medical records and where to get them. VA is kind of tough sometimes in terms of getting the records easily as before. A lot of times now I'll have my veteran clients, of which I have many, we'll talk and I'll be like, all right, can you get me from the very beginning? Because I don't know what the SSA DDS is going to get. They might just ask for a little thing. And I'm like, no, we want them all. So like, I might say, hey, can you go in there and get, don't pick and choose. Don't do continuity of care, that little tiny thing. Get the full 9 yards up to today. And then maybe in 3 months, I'll say, hey, if my client's still treating with the VA, sometimes they're not, or sometimes they're doing hybrid. I'll say, hey, can you get the last 3 months and just upload them? We have a portal that my clients share stuff to me and I share, things back. And then we always have and then I will shoot it up to the DDS and make sure they have it, because sometimes they seem to have a different version maybe. And it could be sometimes duplicative, but I'm not before a judge right now. So I don't care as much about that, because it's very important to me that every date is in there. I don't want anything missed. So there is that. They have to look at everything you get from the VA. They will also look at the opinions that rendered you disabled by the VA, and see what that's about. But because those things are finding out if you meet a definition over here, which is not the same definition over here with SS, it is not conclusive. And a lot of people, remember, a lot of people who are 100% disabled vets, they go out and work a full-time job because their definition of disabled for VA is not inconsistent with that. They can. They're not saying you can't do anything. You're not able to work a full-time job. Either you'll be canceled or you're just physically not able. Those are not the rules to have VA disability status and benefits. So a lot of disabled vets do work, and I'm glad for it. But that's another reason why they might not be SSDI disabled, because it's possible they can work. So the SSA has to determine if they in fact can't work, because their VA rating doesn't actually say that. It just says you meet our definition of disabled. I mean, the same is true for long-term disability policies. People will say, I got LTD through my employer when I, became disabled from doing my job. So that should make it where I win my SSD. And I'm like, not really, because that definition there, to win that, you just had to prove you couldn't do your current job. But if you remember, with SSD, not only do you have to prove you can't do your current or most recent job, or the jobs in your past relevant work period, which is that 5-year period, they also have to show, you have to prove that you can't do the other 11,999 jobs that exist in the economy, or something like that. They trimmed a few off, but it was like a very small handful. And then they probably added others. So, with technology. So, but they have to consider it all. So make sure you get it to them, you or your representative. Yeah. And they do, and they will consider the opinions of those doctors also, and the VA. They're just not going to make it conclusive. So you want to get it all before them, for sure. Dimple. Rheumatoid arthritis. Oh, I'm sorry, Dimple. That one's harsh. With my dominant hand is becoming deformed. Oh, that sounds painful, to the point that it is difficult to type and meet my performance requirements. Okay, so you're still working, right? I think you said in a prior Q&A. Yeah, you have to figure out when you're going to pull the trigger and stop the work. Prepare for, the tighter, leaner days. You're making a change, and change can be painful because you might have to go without that paycheck for a while. So prepare for it. If there's budgeting down, you can do. Remember, when you get your disability, it's probably going to be less than your salary anyway. So you kind of have to learn how to budget down anyway. So now's the time. And hopefully there is sufficient savings, or a partner where you have someone to lean on to pay the bills while you might not be doing so. Or, Dimple, you can also, if you cut down to below SGA, part-time work below SGA, whether it's in your current field or something completely different, you can file then while still earning some money. So remember that too. I know it's hard. All right, guys, I think we're done. Are we done? Are we good? Did I get everybody's questions? I think so. All right. I'm not sure if there's anything else to share in the news. It's coming out all the time, though. I'm not doing them really in real time. When I do, I just put them on for the next opening at 9 a.m. when there is a change with the SSA, things going on, positives, negatives, all that, because I'm only putting that one a day at 9 a.m. But anyway. All right. If anyone had a question, I'm sorry I missed you. You can post it below, and if I can get to it during the week, I will. If not, come next week. I should be here at 10 a.m. In 2 weeks, guys, I have to be on the road Tuesday driving, and Wednesday. Well, I have a hearing Tuesday, then I'm getting on the road. And I'll be driving through Wednesday and Thursday. So I don't think I can be here at 9 a.m. on that. That's the 16th. I don't know whether I should maybe try and do it on a Friday, just that one time, same time as usual. What do you think? I could do that, just sneak it in on Friday, 2 days later. In fact, I might just do that. That way, if somebody has any questions, we can. I see something from Target. Right, let me just hop down here. After 10 months of waiting, I was recently sent RFC forms. I thought it was just too late in my wait for a decision. Oh, let me go see what you said above, Tiger. Oh, okay. Wait. Yeah, that's probably because all last year we were waiting 8 months, 9 months, 10 months for an adjudicator. For whatever reason, they didn't have enough adjudicators. There were too many cases or whatever was going on. I don't know that that's changed. You might have just, your time to get the next adjudicator came up And that's when you got your RFC, because usually that happens when you first get an adjudicator. So I'm thinking your case was kind of stagnant, waiting its turn there at the DDS, at the medical workup office, which really, you know, that has never happened in my 20 years until 2-3 years ago. So things really took a bad turn the last several years, or last few years. They've always been but not in that regard. So I'm hoping that's something that will be remedied. I know that's the states control their, you know, how many adjudicators they put in their state disability offices, which are the ones that do they're outsourced for the federal medical workups. But, you know, I'm sure they depend on what the federal government is going to be sending them to pay to have people do this. So the fact that Congress hadn't been sending more in the budget probably wasn't helpful. And maybe the budget was being spent in places where it shouldn't be. So I'm hoping that's going to change soon. And we'll get back to, you know, you get an adjudicator within like 3 weeks of filing. That's how it's always been for 20 years until a few years ago. But I'm glad you got one now. So hopefully this will take off. Don't slacken your treatment, Tiger Bite. Keep going. Keep treating it like you are fighting the fight you're fighting, you know, for your impairments to be considered as severe and limiting as you know they are. It doesn't come really so much from our mouth, although that's important too. The foundation of medical evidence is stuff that is not said by us. It's coming from our medical records. And that's why those have to be consistent and ongoing. And ideally touching on all of your impairments, not just the one that you feel is the worst, because sometimes it's a different one that actually wins the case. Because we can't win on 99%. We have to win on 100%. So you can't leave that 1% hanging there unaddressed. Okay. All right. Are we there? Oh, I do see Manny V just popped in. Come on, people. we were closing shop. Manny V, nice to see you. I call, put on hold, and also rude employees. I know. I asked to speak to a supervisor and I leave a message. Yeah, that's never going to happen. I can't even get one. But it seems like I'm getting nowhere. What can I do? I don't know what you're calling about, Manny V. So that's a big question. Anything you can do online, I would do online. And I assume you're also calling the field office and not the DDS. I don't know if you have an active claim. You haven't really said. So we don't know where you're trying to call. I will say this. I called Fayetteville, Arkansas yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And because my rep documents hadn't been processed and I've sent them in 4 times on a case, it's about 2 months in now. And they need to have the attorney there so I can start banging the door. And so I'm not happy that they haven't processed the paperwork yet. But I am thrilled that they picked up the phone within like 3 minutes. And I had the nicest lady on the phone. Fayetteville, Arkansas field office. You have a very nice staff member there. She was very professional, kind speaking. Didn't seem to hate what she does. That's always a plus. So I don't know. Shout out to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Yeah, Manny, getting put on hold is sometimes because they need to ask somebody because that person doesn't know the answer. And feasibly sometimes because they don't like who's on the phone with them. So if they are rude, make sure you're not rude too. I'm not suggesting you were, by the way. But I know the first way to tick off a staffer is to be rude to them because, oftentimes their hands are tied. And as I say, we get more bees with honey. So for everybody, you have to do that. And you have to be able to control our frustration. This is why I don't get on the phone with them very often because I might not be able to. But I tend to hold my own with that, but it can be very hard. Oh, Valerie, you are an angel. Thank you for being part of this community, Valerie. I totally appreciate it because you also always give great, thoughtful comments and questions. And that's what it's all about, right? So we can all kind of figure things out. Have a great day, Valerie. All right, Dimple, you also. Oh, we got another late to the party, Silver Monster. Silver Monster. Love it. Silver Monster applied for recon. So you appealed for reconsideration on March 27th. And today the SSA is showing I am on step 3. That's probably through your online account. I know the steps are not that important, but is that really fast to be on step 3 and just a couple of days for recon? No, because you already have filed. So all the hard work of getting you, established that it's you and matching you up and all this stuff, making sure you had a DLI that's in line with your claim and all that. That's all done. So recon really should be, as soon as it's in, I really think it should be automated that it goes on to the next step because there's nothing more to be done. You did the only thing you had to do, which was file that recon, with presumably you did it online, you put in your all the visits you've had since you applied and all that. So no, that would be pretty standard. And that's the beauty of when it's automated. He got in his appeal for reconsideration online, automated, boom, next step. Get him an adjudicator and move it forward. Now whether you get an adjudicator right away, Silver, is another story. I'd love it if you'd come back and let me know if you hear from your adjudicator and how long it took after you applied for recon. We're hoping to see improved timeframes for adjudicators. I don't know how, where in the spiel of fixing things that's coming up. I would like to think that would be a priority, though, because that's all about claimants. And that's one of the priority mission critical areas. So I'd like to think that that's going to be a part that's been so broken for a few years. It's sickening. That would be one of their priority areas to work on. So we'll see. It takes hiring people and training people, things that I know the last administration, they put a hiring freeze on. Not that they hire, it's really the states, but if they keep a budget where the state doesn't feel it can do it, at least not for federal purposes, but only for their state disability purposes, which is separate, then that would be that. So hopefully that will be remedied, or they'll shift workloads to places that have better staffing and all that. Anyway, but it is not unusual that you will be showing on step 3. It's just now, is there an adjudicator handling your case at step 3? Right? So fingers crossed for you, Silver. Let us know. All right. I think we're good now, right, guys? I might go have a bite to eat. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. This is going to go replay live in minutes. So you can always put your questions there. If they're suitable for a video, I will do one. It will be immediately available to members and eventually out to the public when it meets its turn, because I only put out one a day and there's other ones that came first. So, all right. Otherwise, we're here Wednesdays for any other questions. And again, 2 Wednesdays from now, it'll probably be on Friday. All right, guys. I'll post that in the general community posts, and maybe put out a little morning statement on it or something to remind people. But anyway, I hope you have a good one. I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.